It is the 100th episode of the podcast. Gosh, where has the time gone? And I just want to publicly thank Aaron and Troy and Jess for helping me produce the show. It is a lot of work and I don't do it on my own. And I want to give a special shout out to my mum and my dear friend Shez, who have listened to every episode from the beginning and call me every week with encouragement and fantastic feedback. And I want to thank you for listening and for all of your messages and reviews. There are so many shows you could be listening to, and I don't take it for granted that you're spending your time with me. It really means the world to me and keeps me going. And so to celebrate, we're going to do something different today. My dear friends Beau Weaver and Elizabeth Jurgensen are going to interview me. And if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you've probably heard me mention them many times. Elizabeth is a somatic practitioner and joined me last week to talk about getting what you want and wanting what you get. And she also joined me last year in episode 65, where we talked about the cycles of the moon and what that teaches us about patience and resilience. And I'm really excited that you finally get to meet Beau today. Beau and Elizabeth are my chosen family. They have been married for over 20 years and know me in a way that very few people do. I met Beau years ago in the voiceover world in LA. He was one of the leading people for over 50 years doing promos for the big TV and radio networks and live announcing for Hollywood award shows. And he really took me under his wing, and it was the beginning of one of the most significant friendships of my life. And it was through Beau that I met Elizabeth, and she and I quickly developed our own deep connection, and it's just grown over the years. We have spent many weekends together in their home, having some of the deepest conversations that I have had with anybody. And through their reflection and their wisdom, I see myself more clearly and with less judgment. They help me see more possibilities for my life and take action on the things that I want. Great relationships make you better than you'd ever be on your own. And I am definitely better because of the way that they hold me. And there's no plan today. I don't know what we're going to talk about or what they might ask me, but I trust them implicitly, and we always cook up a lot of love and magic together. I'm really excited for you to get to know them a little bit and be a part of our friendship today. So let's dive in and get the skinny from Beau and Elizabeth.
Hey, everybody. It has to be me. But in this case, it had to be Tess Masters. It had to be. And this is the 100th episode of this podcast. And so, Tess, I think this might actually be a thing, you know. And so the people watching might be wondering, who are these people and what is happening here? And the truth is, we have no idea. Elizabeth has been on this podcast, and she shared with you that she was a little uncomfortable because she doesn't have a website or a seminar or a book or, you know, anything to sell, and neither do I. So why are we here? You know, and why are we on this on the 100th anniversary of this podcast? Well, I think it's because somehow the three of us have this extraordinary relationship that we can't explain. And so what we're going to do is do what I think, Tess, one of your therapists has called, we're going to explore it using longhand rather than shorthand. You know, all over the web, especially in the wellness world, it's all shorthand. Right. You know, it's the one word that made this person a leader, or the three things. You know, it's like condense it into a short little thing that the algorithm can parse. You know, but what you've been doing on this podcast is long form, with people really exploring the nooks and crannies of whatever you happen to be focusing on. And I think that's what we're doing here.
So what nooks and crannies are we going to explore? Tessa's nooks and crannies?
We're going to explore a lot of Tessa's nooks and crannies, and we're going to explore some of the nooks and crannies of our relationship and why we're here. You know. Does that make sense to you, Tessie?
Yeah. No, I'm going with it. And we always have such beautiful conversations, and I feel so safe and seen with you, and that's what makes great relationships.
Yeah. Well, I might ask you to recall and remember when you and I first met, because there was something about that meeting where we saw each other. You know?
Yeah, it was unlike anything I've ever experienced before. Mm-hmm. You and I have spoken about this. I don't really understand it. I can't put it into words, and it was magical and beautiful. And when I was living in America, I had never recorded myself. I'd always been a really coddled voice actor who'd gone into the studio, and over the years, we know that's changed and most people are recording at home now. And so I was very nervous about that. So I got into my first chat room online. I asked a question about a microphone, and you answered me, and I didn't know who you were. And you were very kind, and I bought this microphone that you told me to buy. And then I looked you up and went, oh, he's one of the biggest voice actors in the world. And so many months later, I went to a voiceover conference, and you were sitting on one of the panels, and you were really demystifying and sort of, taking the veneer off of, being some successful voice actor. You're like, guys, just do what you love. You were just really approachable and wonderful. I sort of had this feeling in my heart like I knew you. Mm-hmm. And, of course, at the end of the panel, everybody swarmed you, and there were, 100 people waiting to talk to you and wanting to, make connections and, all the things we do with those things. But I feel so uncomfortable doing that. I never do it. So I just stood at the back of the room, and I was just watching you and sort of listening to what was coming up in my heart. I thought, oh, gosh, I really feel a connection to you, but I didn't feel comfortable going up to you. I thought maybe you would think it was weird. I mean, all the things we think, we second guess ourselves. We don't trust our instincts. And you just looked over at me, and it was like I'd been hit by a stun gun or something. And you just turned to everyone and said, excuse me, but there is a lady over there that I must speak with. And you just walked straight towards me. And you walked up and said, hello again. Mm-hmm. And I went, hello. And you said, we know each other. Yes. And I said, yes. I asked you about the microphone. And I went straight into that. And you just kept really calm, and you just said, yes, but we know each other. Mm-hmm. Hello again. And I just spontaneously, my hand found my way up to my heart. And that was it. I just knew that I knew you before, and we've been dear friends ever since. And we just went straight into emotional intimacy. It was just like we picked up from another life or something. Is that how you would explain it?
Absolutely. And see, I don't know anything about other lives. I mean,
I don't either.
I'm having trouble enough with this one,
Totally.
But there was a familiarity that we couldn't understand. Like, we're not starting at the beginning. We're starting in the middle of a conversation, and that's the way it's been as we've discussed life and relationships. And somehow we have, and as you drew Elizabeth into our relationship, we've always had the ability to instantly go deep. Yeah. Like when we haven't seen Tess for a long time, and she's getting out of her car before the hugs have even happened. So in therapy, I've discovered that, it's already starting, and that might be really tedious for a lot of people, but that's just somehow the way we roll.
Yeah. And I'd like to jump in here for just a moment, because I remember Beau coming home from that conference because I think you were gone for like maybe an entire weekend or something. And you came home and you were talking about this woman, Tess, that you met, but the way you described that sort of energy between the two of you was exactly what both of you just said. He said, I saw her and it's like, I knew her. I knew her and I knew we were going to be friends and I knew we had a connection that went way back. And I said, well, who is she? And I didn't feel threatened or anything, but it was just interesting to me. But I remember even in the way he described it, just how taken he was by that instant connection, not attraction, connection. And I think one of the things I just want to put out there right at the beginning of this episode is this is a little weird to have three people, in a very close friendship. Usually it's two couples or it's the women are friends and the men are friends or something like that. But we've developed this really beautiful sort of way of dancing with the three of us that feels like home to me in a lot of ways. It feels like family. I've never felt threatened or weird. And since I'm the one talking, do you want me to tell the story of how Tess and I got close?
Yes, but first let me just say how much I appreciate the fact that you didn't have a jealousy response, because most women would, because of the intensity of our connection. And that gave me the freedom to be close friends with Tess. And then at a certain point, she drew you in, and that's what you were going to tell.
Yeah. I actually, after you guys had actually known each other, I don't know,
couple of years.
2 or 3 years. I had stopped teaching. And I was kind of looking like, what could I do from home? As I've spoken about in the other episodes I've done with you, I had been in a car accident. I had a severe back injury. I couldn't really work full time anymore. But I thought, oh, I'm an actress. I can read. I could do audiobooks. So I took an audiobook class, on doing that particular style and recording it. And your partner at the time was teaching it. And so the four of us met afterward. And that was where I actually met you. And we went to your house and you were in the kitchen developing recipes. I think
for my first book.
Right, for your first book. I think you had the publishing contract, but you didn't have, the book wasn't out yet. But I remember, watching you and Beau, the way you interacted. And I was like, oh, yeah. Seeing it in person, I was like, oh, yeah, I really get it. And also the way you were so like, Elizabeth, come be with us. Come be part of this. You really didn't just make it the Beau and Tess show. You really included me. And then I want to say, maybe a few months after that, Beau went to some other conference and you called me and said, I would like to get to know just you between the two of us together. Would it be okay if I came and spent the weekend with you in Ojai where we were living? And I said, absolutely. And we did the same thing as you and Beau. We just dove deep. We ate a lot of ice cream and dove really deep.
So good. You had all your favorite flavors, and let me introduce this one to you and this one to you. And I think we had 3 of them open at once at one time.
Yes. I introduced you to all the non-dairy delicacies of ice cream. And we just did. We really opened our hearts to each other. And since then, it's really been one of the real treasures of my life to have you as a close friend and to have this 3-way relationship, but also to have what you and I have between the two of us, woman to woman, which has been just, like I say, just a real treasure in my life. So for our audience, that's how we all came to know each other and develop this little interesting triangular relationship.
I've said to a few people that I don't think anyone besides a couple of therapists that we've worked with knows us as a couple, knows all of us, including the parts that we really don't want anybody else to see. You've been with us and held us and loved us through working through some really difficult shit, and we've had some really difficult things to work through, but you've been in it with us, and that's not
Oh, well, what a
normal.
privilege it is. It has been and is, because you let me.
Mm.
You let me in, and I don't take that for granted.
And you did the same with us. You also shared with us very deeply your journey through a couple of partnerships and
Oh
changes,
gosh, yes.
changes in, where you were going with your career and all of your doubts and fears and shames. And so that's why I say it's just a treasure to me. I hold it very, very carefully because I know how unique and beautiful this is. And so I'm just thrilled to share more of you through our lens with the people listening and watching.
Gosh, well, I got to tell
it is
you,
such a special relationship.
yeah, if I could ask anybody to help people see me, I would want it to be through your eyes. And I think one of the many things that makes our relationship special is that there has never at any point been a carelessness between us. We always hold each other with such care and love. And, as we've spoken about many times, there is a carelessness that is pervasive in the world.
Yes.
And you saying that, when we connect, the connection feels like home. It does. It feels like it is of me, even though it is other to me. But there is a place that we meet that is safe. It's familiar. It's loving. It's wise. It's forgiving. It's allowing. I feel like that day where we all danced as monsters. I said I felt like I wanted too much and I was too greedy and too ambitious and I wasn't content and I was always looking for the next thing. And you just went, I said, I'm a monster. And you went, oh, we love your monster.
Yes,
you want to dance with our monsters? Let's all be monsters. And it was a real turning point for me in terms of the way that I hold my insatiable desire, my desire for life, desire for love, desire for more, desire.
Well, I still think that there was a time that maybe one of my comments was a little careless, and you know what that comment was.
Oh, the fire hydrant one.
Yes,
you're still holding on to that.
Being with Tess is like getting a drink of water out of a fire hydrant, and that fed into that I'm too much thing.
But it was always there, Bobo. It was always there. I knew exactly what you meant when you said that. When you said, I imagine that loving you, and we were talking about intimate partnership, I imagine that loving you is like getting a drink from a fire hydrant.
Right. Yeah.
And I really did not take it that way.
Okay. Right.
Because I have lived with, the I'm not enough story. I always thought they were opposites when I was much, much younger. And now we realize that they're right there. And it's just a different manifestation of that concept of I have to be different in order to be loved.
Right.
And because I know that you love me, and even though we are not blood relatives, I do feel in my heart unconditional love from both of you. That I can completely be myself because we are not careless with each other. That if there at any point there was a time when one of us said something that really wounded the other, I feel like when you were ready, you would come to me and we would talk it through with love. And I don't know many other non-familial relationships that I could say that about. I don't know about the two of you, how you feel about that.
I think that's true. I'm remembering a time sitting in our living room where Beau and I had been having a hard time in our relationship, and we'd also been doing some work with a therapist and gained a certain dynamic understanding about who we were, that we were kind of opposites in the way that we approached conflict and sometimes even just life in general. And I remember it very clearly. You paused for a moment and you said, you asked for permission. You said, "Can I be really honest with the two of you?"
Mm-hmm.
And we said yes, because we respect
And we trust you.
and trust your reflections and insight. But like you said, you weren't careless. You very carefully chose your words about what you were seeing with us. And I could feel literally the love just coming out of your body as you said it. And you even had tears in your eyes because you wanted us to win.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted us to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that we bring in this relationship, the three of us, is we so want all three of us to thrive.
Yes.
And fully be who we are and be seen and held by at least one other person in that way of being. And I will never forget that moment, because I remember Beau and I even just looked at each other and we both kind of breathed out for a moment, and we were like, okay, we see it now. You know, your reflection, but we see it. Yes, you're right, but you took such care in the way you expressed it. And it just meant the world to me. And I also felt very safe having you see that really messy, ugly moment between us and where we were struggling. And again, I think, like Beau said, that's very unusual. It's unusual even in families, you know, to really
Absolutely.
let each other be seen at that depth and trust that any reflection we get back will be from the heart, not to fix or to be the expert, but to just be, this is what I see. So I just share that story as, again, something that I treasure, you know, about the connection.
But to your point, we all participate in that and create that dynamic and that well of trust. In that I could have chosen my words very carefully and given my offer, and I still could not control how it was received.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
And that is the dance of intimacy.
Yes.
That is about receiving. And you chose in that moment to receive it that way. And so I'm grateful for the way that you receive my offers and the way that you receive me and all the parts of me. And, you know, I use that term, ugly, I'm a monster, you know, all those parts that are messy. But in that moment, because I remember that conversation very vividly, and I was sitting in that beautiful chair that I love so much in the living room. We always assume the positions, and Beau is over there. You're always on the big couch. You're with Rudy always. You know, we were always kind of found our little corners of the room, so to speak. And that was mine. And I always felt safe in that space. But it wasn't ugly. It was two beautiful, flawed people, like we all are, figuring it out. That's all it was.
We need more than just us as a couple. You know, all couples do, and individuals do. We talk about how we're living in this culture of late stage capitalism. Some writer I read recently said that we're also living in late stage individualism, and we're all suffering from that.
Yes.
But couples need other people in, you know, and at one point we had extended families and you know, people that were in our lives forever, you know, that we could trust. And sometimes what you need is a trusted friend who is just going to listen, not tell you things or advise you, or just the depth of their presence makes you feel like it's going to be okay, like it will pass. And most people don't have that. And if they do, they're paying $225 an hour for a 50-minute hour. It's professionalized. It's not as Elizabeth said, and as you said, Tess, like family.
Right. And I think too, as a couple, other people often view couples, and I've experienced this as a couple, as number one, as a unit. You see us as the unit that we are, but you also see us as the individuals that we are. And you love us in the way that I need you to love me and Beau needs you to love him. It's not like I love Beau and Elizabeth run together. It's like I love Beau and I love Elizabeth and I love who they are as a couple as well as who they are individually. And often, and I know this is just fear and often not knowing what to do, but friends of a couple, when the couple is having a hard time, they kind of back away. They're kind of like, ooh.
Yeah, it's not my business.
Yeah, it's not my business. This is between the two of you. Maybe you need to see somebody. And as a couple, I'm usually very reluctant to share deep, intimate things about what might be going on in my relationship because that is going to be the response. Or it's going to be a bunch of advice. Instead of just presence and listening, where you have been able, like even in your visits, like I know there's been a couple of times you visited that there's been tension, with us, or we are just coming out of a period of conflict, so we're very tender, and you've just been like, it's okay. I'm just here. We're just all in this together. We didn't have to put on a performance. You weren't trying to be like the perfect guest, so not to upset us or anything. Again, there's an ease because of the trust between us that I don't think couples get a lot from their friends. And it's very supportive. The not needing anything, because we also experience this. A lot of people think, oh, these guys are like the perfect couple. So then we feel like, well, I guess we better pretend like we're the perfect couple,
And now it's pretense. Now we're into pretending and keeping up a front of some sort.
Right.
Because we think it's expected.
Right. And so the relationship has a shallowness to it. And you have allowed us to just be where we're at as a couple when you visit or when you come and stay with us or when we talk on the phone and do FaceTime all together, that it helps me relax. I don't have to be like Beau's wife or, I can say we just, had a fight. And so we're kind of tender right now. And you're like, that's okay. I'm here. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. And we don't get that from other people.
Oh, thank you. You do the same thing for me. I'm thinking about this beautiful line in one of my favorite movies, Same Time Next Year, with Alan Alda and Ellen Bernstein, which is a very unconventional love story of this couple that meet the same weekend every year for decades when they're married to other people. And in the final little chapter of it, he says to her, "You've always been able to see right through me." And she just smiles and says, "Well, I've always loved what I've seen." And I feel that way about you. I've always loved what I've seen. The courage and the vulnerability and the acknowledgement that I don't know everything. And I am struggling right now. And at the same time, I also have the capacity to meet you with what's going on for you.
Exactly.
And I think that that's another big piece of this, is that we choose, all three of us, to have enough capacity for each other in whatever dynamic we find each other in. Whether it's the two of you and I'm a little bit over here, or whether it's the three of us playing together. It's as we've been constellating around, this acknowledgement that a threesome, in any capacity, it's not even. that, you know what I mean? Just by virtue of the fact that it's not 2 and 2, it's not 3 and 3, or, so there's something about that dance of being able to be fully present in the change that occurs with the energy.
Mm-hmm.
And because you're both so intuitive and you read the room, you read my room, just my solo room, and these very subtle shifts in what's going on for me actually helps me to hold you.
Yeah.
So we are holding and sharing and leading and knowing and following all at the same time. And I think that that's one of the many things that allows us to put on our scuba gear and dive to depths that we may not have been to with that particular piece of the experience.
That's right.
And I think that's something, if I recall, so many of our conversations, there is that acknowledgement that it's not fully formed. Like what we're exploring is not static. It's not cemented. It's, and both of you do that really beautifully of, this is coming in pieces, or it's not fully formed, or just hang on, I don't really have the words yet, or wait, let me breathe into that. Just taking that time to find our way in with things and not having the pressure to have this fully presented, finished, fabulous, glossy thing.
Right. And also each of us are able to sit back and watch the other two, which I think is really beautiful. I have a lot of memories of, like, you and Beau are both much more forceful personalities than I am. And you two can, and you share voiceover experience and other experiences that I don't. And there's a beauty to just watching the two of you go. And I am so happy to just sit back and go, wow, there's the Beau and Tess show. And I don't feel any need to insert myself, which I think is also a little unusual. I don't feel left out by any means, and I don't feel any need to insert myself. I just take great joy in watching the two of you interact the way that you interact. And I believe Beau can say his piece on this, but my sense is that he loves watching you and I.
Oh, yes.
He loves it.
Oh. Yeah, because you guys just go in here and here and here and here and here and here, and off it goes,
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes when you guys are in it, I want to make popcorn. Just
And sometimes you have, Elizabeth and I,
Yeah.
and you just slowly walk into the kitchen, you make some food, and we've been, and you come back with this platter of food.
Well, there's something about the three of us that I'm seeing as kind of the commonality. And, here we are spending all this time talking about our odd little friendship. But what I'm thinking about is, when you started Blender Girl, as I recall, you had some serious health challenges that you had to find a way to solve for yourself. And Blender Girl didn't just mean you're making a bunch of smoothies. It meant you had to pull from a lot of different sources to find the aspects that would work for you to create health and wellness for yourself. And it was not a linear, do this one thing, or I'm a this, with a bumper sticker on it, like an identity or a label. It was a blend. It was a mixture that is appropriate just for you. Is that correct? Am I getting that Blender Girl means that, as well as, Vitamix and then later KitchenAid?
Yeah. I mean, I had Epstein-Barr virus as a teenager, and I was just, I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't function in life. I mean, I was just it was debilitating. and I have a lot of energy naturally. So it was just really heartbreaking. And I just thank my mom for being so progressive and so forward thinking and researching and recognizing that it wasn't just, well, just sleep and you'll just have to wait. She's like, no, we're going to do some things with food and lifestyle and be more proactive. So she took me to a naturopath, and it really changed my life. I mean, that was the beginning of a revolution in the way that I approached food and my relationship with food. But then I went to an extreme, because I was going to perfect, perfect the being Tess if it killed me, basically. And, I then went, I really fell into dogma and this approach and that approach and perfecting this and perfecting that. And it was on my 18th birthday that we're in a restaurant, and my dad just went, the waiter came over and, would you want to hear the specials? And I went, oh, no, sorry, let me just tell you, I can't eat this and I can't eat this and and can you do this? And my dad said, can you just give us a minute? Mm-hmm. And he literally just said, you know what? You're 18 now. I think you can handle this. So I'm just going to tell you what we've been dying to tell you for years, that we are exhausted watching you eat, watching you starve yourself, watching you tell everybody what you can't do. And food should be fun, right?
Yeah, eat a frickin' cheeseburger.
Thank you. Thank you. And it was, my daddy just loves me more than anyone on planet Earth, and I really listened to that, and it was a wake-up call for me. And then I really realized that flexibility rather than rigidity were the keys to health and happiness, and flexibility. So many years later, when I came to, decide I was going to start a food website, I looked over at my blender and thought about all the different things I used a blender for beyond smoothies. An element of a dish like a sauce or a burger or making compost or cleaning products or, all kinds of things that I was using it for. I really thought, it is a metaphor for how I live my life now. I blend different notes and flavors and philosophies and cultures and approaches to find my perfect blend at any given time. And that isn't static, it's fluid. And that idea of not chasing perfection, that everything is in process, to your point before about finding ourselves in the middle of the story all the time. And also, you can't mess it up because we're going to blend it anyway. Right. So that was a message, that resonated with a lot of other people, and it really has formed the foundation for everything that I've done in the food and wellness space since.
Well, what's amazing to me is once you built the Blender Girl persona and the website, and then major publisher books, how deeply you dove into that world and into the publishing world. You're, I don't know if you're a polymath, but you're damn close. But because you became such an expert in marketing, and then later as the spokesman for KitchenAid, or first for Vitamix, I heard you on the phone talking to these marketing executives, sounding like you were a world-class marketing teacher or expert. It's just amazing to me how deeply you were able to immerse into those worlds and talk to those guys like you were, a C-suite negotiator. Where did that come from?
Balls of steel, man. Like, when I think about that,
where did that come from?
If you had said to me, you're going to turn out to be one of the top blender experts in the world, I would have just laughed at you when I was 15 years old. That was not on my bingo card. It just wasn't. Like, I loved my blender. I thought it was amazing. But I think it is a drive that I have from my parents that if you're going to do anything, you do it to the best of your ability. So whether you are volunteering, whether you are at university, whether you are sitting with someone and just having a conversation, you are going to be present and show up with the full you. Mm-hmm. And So that was really ingrained in me, that integrity piece of it and striving for excellence and all of that from my parents, no doubt.
Mhm.
And then I do have a real drive that if I am going to put myself out there, I want to get to the most elite level, or I feel like I failed. I mean, that's definitely something that drives me. So, when I started developing recipes and the website started to get bigger and I started to get all these offers from different companies and things, it was really important to me that I tested all my recipes on every blender. So I started buying all these different blenders, and before I knew it, I had an entire room of hundreds of blenders. At one point, I owned almost every blender on the market. And so I really started to look at how blenders worked and what made a good blender and what didn't. And my opinion of that, I mean, I was very much self-taught, and it wasn't until some companies started recognizing, I would just make a little comment, and then I would get an email saying, do you know what? We mentioned this to our engineers and they went, would you mind if we spoke to her? Do you think she would be open to us speaking to her? And then...
And there you were tutoring the engineers.
I mean, it's just balls of steel again. I mean, maybe it's arrogance. I don't know. But, I just said, look, I'm not an expert. I'm just going to share with you what I see when I'm using all these different machines and the blade construction and the power of the motor and how it works with the vortex for even blending and for this and whatever. And then it just developed from there, because the thing about the appliance world is, when you enter a hemisphere, it's actually very small and everybody knows each other, so people move around to different companies. And then I would make a little comment here and there on one call about how to talk about this or this or this. And then the marketing piece of it developed from there. I am certainly not a marketing expert or don't have a lot of skill in that area.
Well,
really.
You play one on TV, pretty effectively.
And that's a perfect segue into a question that I would like to pose to you, Tess, because prior to all this, you actually, if I remember correctly, you moved to the United States to go to school because you wanted to major in theater at one of the big universities here. And you were an actress and then a voiceover talent for a long time. And so I wonder, because this is something you and I share, is that we went to school, studied theater, and were actresses, for quite a long time. And there's something about an actor is you can put on the persona of the marketing genius or the engineer, even if you don't know all the details. And I say that because after I was an actress, I went back to school and got a business degree, and I got this really pretty high-powered corporate job. And I remember the man who hired me, who became my boss, he said, I can teach you the details of the spreadsheet or the product that we're selling or whatever. What I can't teach is the ability to get up in front of a client and make a presentation and be super comfortable and confident doing that. And I'm wondering, do you kind of feel that maybe that acting background plays a part in that balls of steel? You can just comfortably inhabit a world?
Definitely. I employ the yes and golden rule of improvisation in everything that I do. And that sense of play and possibility that exists nowhere else but the rehearsal room.
Yes.
Where you can do and say anything and there are no real consequences in real life because you're not going to hurt anybody because everybody accepts the convention that it's play and make believe.
Right. And it gives you an intuitive ability to receive what the other person is giving you and then know, oh, okay, I can take it this direction, I can take it this direction, but it's based on what they're giving you, not your own agenda. And so that, yes, you have that, what you call balls of steel, a confidence, but the way you can go in and talk to these engineers very comfortably, I tend to think is based on your comfort in inhabiting a character in a way. This is the character of Tess being the engineer person.
I mean, look, not to take anything away from those brilliant engineers that know more than I will ever know. But really, I was giving offers. To your point, with acting, with play, you give offers. And really, that's what we're doing in life. It is a microcosm for the dynamic that happens in relationships in life, because we are putting a mirror up to life with storytelling. And so I just decided, because it kept evolving and more people kept reaching out going, I heard that you helped so-and-so, or you suggested this for so-and-so. And then that's how the consultancy part of my company really, really grew, because people just kept telling people, and the things that I suggested ended up working, for a lot, you know what I mean? It is wonderful. The KitchenAid trademarked some of the things that I suggested, which is wonderful. But, not to take anything away from the rest of the team, I just threw my offers into the mix, and I did it boldly. And I gave myself permission to do that, because if you are not bold in the rehearsal room, you are dead.
Exactly. Exactly. You have to be willing to take those risks of, I'm going to try this, or they're giving me this. Ooh, wow, that kind of brings up this. So let's follow that thread. And yes, there is something about the acting training and the improvisation training, and also the character studies that we do, like being able to read people or kind of tease out kind of what's going on with them, or what do they need, or because that's what you need to know in order to inhabit a character. So I just wanted to throw that out there and say,
it's very true. I'll tell you the flip side of it too. I remember right before I sold my book, and books it turned out to be 1, 2, not 1, and then 3, not 2, and it grew and grew and grew into an app and all the other things. But I remember right about 6 months before I sold those books, I was getting up to my 40th birthday, and I felt like a failure, and, I hadn't made it as an actor the way that I wanted to, even though I was working a lot as a voice actor and all these other things. And I got this really, really, really big video game. And I did all these sessions on it, and then they recast a whole bunch, of things. And I was devastated. It happens all the time, but it did not happen to, it happens all the time, but it had not happened to me. I was devastated.
Yeah.
I mean, I was so humiliated. It was this game ended up being so huge. Anyway, I was like, oh my God. But they, changed developers, and all this other stuff happened that probably had not as much to do with me as I was, thinking it had, but I was really devastated. And I remember once I sold my book and it came out and all the things, there were all these people sitting in the lobby of the voiceover agency talking about, oh, did you see that Tessa's book is huge on Amazon today? And oh my God, she's so lucky. And our friend Stacey just sat there and went, luck has nothing to do with it. Yeah. She worked really hard on that, blah, blah, blah. And she called me and was telling me the story, and she said, there's no recasting on this one, baby.
Yeah. Really.
And I remember that moment so vividly with her, because I was driving over Coldwater Canyon in LA, and I just went, yeah, this persona is mine. It's me. It's not make-believe. I own this. It is a culmination of my whole life's work, all of my life experiences, and I'm bringing it to this part of me. And I think that's what allowed me to be even bolder and even stronger and think bigger and continue to grow, which then fed into Skinny 60 and, the Decadent Detox and all the health programs, and giving myself permission that I could do that and create this thing that came from me, that was owned by me. Yeah. And of course, I had imposter syndrome every day of every month, the whole journey, and continue to do so. But I think, to your point, it is that boldness and dwelling in possibility that comes from being a theater animal that continues to feed everything that I do. I mean, gosh, when I started public speaking, I was getting in front of thousands and thousands of people, and I just felt completely at home. Like, this is where I was always meant to be. I feel more comfortable in many ways doing that than I do speaking to a room of 10 people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, trusting what is coming through you, I think is something that we're all working with. And the three of us have in common some big pivots in our life trajectory,
Yeah.
And it's not a straight line, but when every one of the pivots that you've made makes perfect sense,
Well, and that kind of brings me to another question for you, Tess, because like just on paper, looking at you on paper, it's like, oh, she was an actress, and then she segued into voiceover, and then she segued into the wellness space and became a spokesperson for kitchen appliances and wrote books, and now she has this business. It can look disjointed, like how do they all relate? What do you think of as kind of the through line? Like you and I have talked about, in my case, when I went back to school for an advanced degree, I was kind of like, but what am I doing this for? And I sort of did a little life review, and I tried to look for not necessarily the activity, but what was the value that seemed to shine through all the multiple careers and pivots that I had made. What value was I pursuing? And I did find one. I found one, like in every instance, even though the career itself didn't seem to relate to the prior one, the value that I was expressing was the same. I wonder, have you been able to tease that out for yourself? Like, what is the keystone that gets expressed about you? Like for me, it was being a teacher. Like even when I was an actress, I loved directing, and I also loved doing workshops for young people and teaching them acting techniques and helping them get comfortable in front of people. And that continued through my corporate career, definitely when I had my own business as a coach, as a fitness coach. And then of course I became an actual academic teacher, on a so I'm wondering, what would you think is sort of a through line for you?
Well, I was going to ask you what yours was, and then you offered it. So thank you, because I was going to go, wait, we have to hear about yours first. I would say it's dwelling in possibility.
Okay.
Dwelling in possibility is the through line. And that is why the podcast is It Has to Be Me. That moment where you go, I am going after that no matter what. That's mine. I have to do it. I want to be doing it. I can do it. And there's no turning back then. You own it. You claim it. You own it. You run with it. And whether it's, and obviously now I'm finding my way back to acting in this really beautiful, amazing way. And they're all parts of me. So it's all love of storytelling is a through line. Self-care and self-love and self-exploration, whether it's through food, whether it's through art, whether it's through story, whether it's through relationships. In Skinny 60 as a coach now, I use the relationship with food as the portal of discoverability to understand what drives our choices and how there is synergy there. Our relationship with food is a mirror to the way that we relate to everything else in our life, and the level of self-care and trust that we have in ourselves and our ability to be the best version of ourselves, to put ourselves out there, that our offer has value, to your point, is how do we value ourselves and make offers? And so that's something that's the through line in every single thing that I do, is where's the truth of the story? Where do I want to be in it? And what's my contribution? I'm a very impact-driven person. So that's another piece of it for me that drives me is how is that going to help me understand myself, and by extension help others to do the same? So that's very much definitely in Skinny 60 in our health program. That's something that comes up every minute of every day with every interaction I have with our participants. But through my cookbooks, through working with companies, through consulting, through being a partner in the restaurants, all the different things that I do, it's just, I want to meet people. And I want to be clear about who I am, and I want to meet them with where they're at. And if it's in a work capacity, I want to help them show up in a way that makes them feel really great.
Yeah, you want to help them dwell in their possibilities.
Yeah, that really gives me a lot of pleasure and joy, is to help people expand their potential and live in it and trust it and value it, that people want to hear what you have to say. And, I've quoted you many times on this podcast, the Don gave to you, which is sometimes the best teacher for a third grader is a fourth grader.
Yes.
You know, it just clicked when you shared that with me all those years ago, many, many years ago. It just went click. It was like a lightning bolt for me because I, you know, along the way, even though I still did it boldly. I mean, listen, when you put yourself out there and someone takes up your offer and then pays you a shit ton of money and makes you sign your name to it, and you're working at the highest level with the biggest publishing house in the world and, you know, huge international brands and you know, working with Four Seasons and Western, all these things, you know, there's no half-assing it at that point.
Right.
They've taken up your offer. You've signed on the dotted line. Serious cash has exchanged hands and you are, I mean, you're committed and you better show up, you know? So that was training for me as well. Oh, actually, this is play, but this is also real life at the same time. And you know, you better do the work to be able to show up tests now because you've made a promise and you have to deliver now. So
And that's
I
no
also
different than
want other
playing a
people to be able to
character
do
on
that.
stage. You had to do
Yeah.
all the work in rehearsal
Yep.
and then have the guts to step out on the stage in front of a live audience and deliver a performance that would give them an emotional experience.
And what I see is whether it's in your stage work or in the work you're doing, you know, in the nutrition programs, you can trust what has come through you because you have done the work.
Yeah.
You know, you can trust it's there. It's there. And all you have to do is allow it to flow through you. Now, it's almost like there's no need for trying anymore. I think I've probably shared with you that great story that I share with voice actors about Marlon Brando in his first film. Do you remember this story?
Yeah, tell it. Yeah.
Well, it's a story about, you know, trusting that you're enough, you know. And the story was it was his first film, and the director was very technical. And with film, there are a lot of technical things you have to know. The camera has to be in focus. So there's a mark on the floor. And when you come over to do this little speech, you have to hit that mark and you've got to be in a particular light, in a particular way where the key light hits your eyes. So there's a lot of things you got to be remembering on the technical level. And, you know, Brando this is his first film. And they did the first take, and he had a little monologue. And the director said, cut. Okay, Marlon, okay, great. That was really great, except we need you to stay still because you're moving in and out of focus. And we also, you're kind of mumbling. You know, we need you to project a little bit, you know, because we're not picking you up a little bit. And Brando kind of sat there real quietly for a second, just kind of nodded. He said, "Let me ask you a question. Don't you have a guy whose job it is to move the camera?" "Well, yeah, Marlon, the DP, the director of photography, does that. And isn't there a guy whose job it is to move the microphone on a boom?" "Well, yeah, the sound grip is doing that one." "Okay, why don't you go tell those guys to do their job? And I'm just going to be the guy. I'm just going to be the guy." You know, and not try to be the guy. Just, you know, you guys picked me to be the guy, so I'm just going to be the guy, you know. And if the guy feels like talking softly in this part of the speech, that's what he's going to do, you know. So just, you know, be the guy and trust what's coming through you, you know. And at this point, you can, you know.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. But to your point before, we need help to do that. And the relationships, intimate relationships, friendships like this, and allowing yourself to be seen at your messiest when you don't have it fully formed and you're figuring it out and you're doubting yourself. I mean, that healthy balance between self-trust and self-doubt is necessary. And we're always teetering you know, and finding that balance. And I can't do it on my own. And I recognize that. So both of you play a huge role in me being able to show up the way that I do. And, you know, my therapists and my family and, you know, anyone else that I allow in my sacred circle. And even the random person I touch at the grocery store today who might just smile at me in a way that, you know, helps me feel, yeah, okay. You know, I mean, it's, we're all helping and holding.
Yeah. That's right.
And, you know, that co-creation aspect of identity, that we don't do it in a vacuum. And do we have to be really discerning about the mirrors that we look into and trust about who we are? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my God, though, the mirrors that you hold up to me about who I am and what I'm capable of. My God, I look into those mirrors on a daily basis, even though we are not physically in relationship with each other, and we're doing it on FaceTime and Zoom at the moment, you know, and we will see each other again. And I can't wait till you come down. When you called me to say you were coming to Australia for a couple of months, it was like, seriously, like
now it must be really happening. It must truly be happening because it's on the internet now, and there's a video clip. So
I'm going to hold you to that because I want to be in my physical love sandwich. So I was crying. I'll share with you, dear listener. I was really processing my husband's my divorce and my breakup and his death and all these things. And I was just in a fetal position in the guest house at Beau and Elizabeth's house. And I was just crying and crying. And Beau came behind me and kind of spooned me. And then Elizabeth walked in with a cup of tea and said, "Can I join the love sandwich?" And then she came in front of me. And it was like they sandwiched me with physical and emotional and spiritual and soul love. And I think about that. I can still feel it, what it felt like in my body to feel that held and that loved in my darkest hour. I mean, that chapter really was my darkest hour. So thank you. Thank you for the way that you love me. It makes me stronger, makes me better.
And thank you for receiving it, because I often think of that moment too. We had made a little kind of nest on the floor of blankets and a little like a futon so that you could stretch out and be comfortable. And I remember that. And I remember how good it felt for you to receive that from both of us, because there was like an energy flowing through you to Beau and back to me. And it was just kind of this circle that we had through you as well as around you. And it was soup. And that was actually where Beau and I began to get a glimpse of how just our relationship and our opening our relationship to other people could be so supportive and healing for them, that we didn't even have to put on a performance of we're great, we're a couple, but everything's great, everything's fine. We could share together, folding someone into all four of our arms. And that was so beautiful to experience that with my partner, because prior to that, like if I had been giving and comforting to someone, it was just me. But to do that with my partner, and that's one of the beautiful dynamics, I think, of our relationship, is that you receive love from both of us together, as well as the individual love that we give you. And again, it sounds weird.
Well, this is the part where a whole lot of the listeners are going, okay, this is where they had sex?
Right,
Was this the love sandwich on the floor with the pillows and the blankets? What? Okay, you know.
But it's so not that. It's so.
But it's more intimate than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a there is a vulnerability in allowing you to see us in all aspects, not only as who we are as individual people, but to see all the aspects of our relationship. And there's a vulnerability in you allowing us, despite all of your accomplishments, and like you say, your balls of steel, you bring us your fear and your vulnerability and your feeling like a failure, and let us hold you.
And not only that, but you let us hold you in your vulnerability, knowing all of the difficulties that we have had to work through together. I mean, you've seen us at our absolute worst, and seen us work it through to getting to a beautiful place. But your trust, means everything to us.
Yeah, thank you. The trust is the thing, isn't it? That we're really constellating around is the trust in yourself, and trust in others, and trust in the intangible things you can't even describe or explain or even fully hold. That there is something magical about the things that we can't control, and we're afraid of the things that we can't control.
And that's definitely something you bring to our little family. Like you were saying, your value is dwell in possibility, and you bring that to us as a couple. Through your eyes, you see not just the difficulty but we might be having, but you see the beauty and the love and the power that we bring to the world as a couple. So you show us our own possibilities, which is
pull us forward into the vision.
You did the same thing for me.
Yeah.
You did the same thing for me. I mean, it is that thing of you can't read, the outside label from the inside.
That's right.
No.
And we need that. We need that third eye, that perspective. And you certainly do that for me all the time. I was thinking about something you said before about just needing someone to listen, just knowing that someone's presence is there. I remember when Rob died, and I was so devastated, and I hadn't given myself permission to really fully grieve because I hadn't seen him in many, many years. We had been divorced for many years. And I'd come down to see you, and I had this real opening about it. And anyway, I left, and I remember I was with Hannah, and I was at Air One, and I just had a breakdown. I had a breakdown at the grocery store, and I just slumped down, and I was in the bathroom, and I literally couldn't breathe. I think I had what I imagined to be a panic attack. I've never had one, or maybe I have one and I don't know what it is, but I literally couldn't form words. It was really difficult, and I was having just it was all coming into me, and I felt like I couldn't hold it in my body. And because Hannah knows me so well and knows how much I love you guys and how close you are to me and how I had just been with you, because she was my assistant for 5 years, she knew the code to my phone. She knew all my password, everything, right? So she just opened my phone, called Beau, just knew to call Beau, and literally asked Beau, this is what's going on. And Beau said, just put the phone up to her ear, just hand her the phone. And you just said, hey, Tessie. And that was it. I just came back into my body. He goes, just breathe. What's going on, kiddo? And just, you talked me through it. And I just remember, I'm like recalling, I said, Rob died. It was sort of like after 6 months, it just sort of, this other way of grief just kind of came over me, and it found its way into another cavern of me. And it was really unexpected. I couldn't breathe. And he just kept going, yes. And it's tragic and it's awful, and you get to have feelings about it. I remember that's exactly what you said to me. And I just started wailing. I mean, I don't know if I've ever wailed like that in my life. Like, I was wailing into cavities and parts of my body that I've never experienced or felt or accessed before ever. I mean, it was I can't even imagine what it was like for Hannah and the people in that. I mean, it was just like, she said it was like it was an alien or something. I mean, it was just crazy. And I needed to do that. And you helped open that for me, Beau. And because I felt so safe with you, and I wouldn't have got there. I wouldn't have got there on my own. And so, you know, and then you talked Hannah through what to do, take her home now, get into the bed with her, make some food, you know, all the things, right? Mm-hmm. And it was really a really huge part of my grief journey with that. And being able to hold that grief in my body to this day and find balance and equilibrium and give myself permission to continue to feel it, however it shows up for me many years later now. And grief is meticulous in its work, and it's a labyrinth, the human experience, and we don't ever know in which part we're going to find ourselves exploring in any given moment because of the unexpected nature of stimuli. But both of you continue to be my navigators in a way, like help me explore the sharp edges of myself and the bits that are hard to look at, which is, you know, what you're saying to me as well. You know, we help each other do hard things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
and we're willing to, you know, I so often think about you, and little fragments of conversations we've had will float through my mind, and I'll go, oh, we need to go back to that. We didn't really finish that thread. And I love that about the way we can talk, like, not like what you said earlier, we will often just pause and just sit with it for a minute and then say, well, this is what's coming up, or this is kind of where I'm going, but it's not fully formed. And we're willing to let it sort of hang there and trust that we'll come back to it another time. And it will have another nuance and another facet. Like grief, it is a journey, and it has many levels and nuances and paths that it has to follow. And we give each other that in this friendship, whatever we bring that we might be struggling with, or an idea that we had, we're willing to just sort of let unfinished business hang there until the next time.
Yes.
Which I think is really beautiful. And that's part of the trust.
And the thing that is really present for me right now, because we just got back from being in Hawaii and getting into relationship with the ocean, a woman, the feminine, also the feminine in a male body, is an ocean. You know, sometimes the waves are really big, and why are the waves really big right now? Well, I don't know. It doesn't matter. You know, gravity, the moon, you know, weather, it doesn't all, you know, and what I'm trying to learn to do with you is just be there for the rocks, be the rocks for that wave to crash on. And that's what I'm learning to do with my dear wife, you know, and she's learning to trust that she can crash on my rocks. And it may or may not mean anything. It's just the waves were big, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
And to let that flow through you, whether it's in an acting performance, you know, or, you know, in your Skinny 60 programming, needing to say to someone in a one-on-one interaction, honey, you're hiding. You're lying to yourself. Telling a truth with loving intent, you know, but allowing it, believing that the truth is coming through you and allowing it. You know, that's what we're trying to teach each other to do.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm getting at when I say we're willing to dive deep in a conversation, but not really come up with an answer or a conclusion. We're willing to just let it kind of hang there, like let the waves just continue to go back and forth for a while, and trust that when it needs to be brought up again, when there's another spark around this particular subject, you know, I remember times you've called me and said, yeah, this is where I'm at and this is what's going on and blah, 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 but I don't know what it all means. And then we don't talk for a while. And then you're like, oh, this is what's going on now, and now it makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
but we didn't try to fix it in the moment. We didn't try to figure it out. There's a presence we're able to give each other of just letting it be whatever it is for this particular moment. And that's a real gift, because most people want to like finish the conversation, done
Well,
and
that's
dusted.
that's an aspect of the alpha or masculine
Yeah.
energy. Wants to check the box, get it finished, and make the problem go away. And
Or finish the thought or come to the conclusion. And
sometimes that's useful in getting shit done, but our interpersonal growth doesn't work that way.
And that's what I love so much about watching you and Beau when the two of you get going on talking about something. It's like it goes, small and then big and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you guys are like out in the stratosphere. And I'm like, wow, this encompasses so many things that you guys are just sort of weaving in and out of. But I have complete trust that it doesn't really have to resolve in any way.
No, we're just in a process
of conversation,
and it's like the ocean. It's like the ocean, and the thing about the ocean is that it doesn't end, and that's also true about desire. The desire, whether it's to in interpersonal, whether it's sexual desire or desire to create something, in business, in the world, that desire is endless. And when you get the thing, you're not satisfied. It's like, I got the thing, because it's never ending. And it's, as our friend Justin in London, you interviewed
who I've had on the podcast,
who he just says, it's hilarious.
Right. It's never
will never be satisfied.
Right. And it's always going to be an irritant. It's always going to feel like an irritant in your psyche, in your body. And so that's
unless you can learn to just be in the flow and enjoy the
and that's partly why I remember that time we were all dancing together as monsters. We love what you call your monster, because it's that endless flow, that endless desire, that it's never going to be resolved. We're never going to have a conversation that's going to put it to bed that Tess is now figured out.
She's
monster,
done and dusted.
Right. And
finished. Tess is done.
Yeah, right. Tess's monster is now healed. Elizabeth's, whatever her monster is now healed. It's never going to happen. And so to have relationships where we can just continue that exploration of whatever
you took the words out of
my
my mouth. I was going to use the word exploration as well. Like, I think that one of the many things we have in common is the love and the interest and the fascination and the desire to be in the exploration.
Yeah.
And to just continue to have a look.
And to not necessarily be focused on what is this for? What can I do with this? Again, that's that internalized capitalism thing. Where can I use this productively? Well, no, it's just this is the way the ocean is flowing. And I always want to know the meta picture. The moral of the story is, what Beau's experience is trying to teach him, and it's just so much nicer to just allow the flow of life to go on. There's a little song they sing in kind of the woo-woo world, and you can kind of make fun of it if you're feeling cynical, but the chorus of it says, you don't have to know the way. The way knows the way. And to just be in that and say, isn't this extraordinary that we get to be on this journey with our friend who has now done 100 podcasts?
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you for doing this. I really love this podcast. It's actually the most joyful thing that I do besides being with the people that I love. I love talking to people. I just love talking about shit with people. I mean, it's just so much fun, and getting to immerse yourself in a life that's not yours,
Mm-hmm.
and the extraordinary things that humans can do
Mm-hmm.
when they just go, yeah, I can do that. When you give yourself permission to do it and explore it, it's just unbelievable what we're capable of. And Elizabeth, we've spoken on the podcast a couple of times now, and we will speak again. And Beau, you and I will speak as well again. But I'm really interested in what's going to happen in this next chapter for you guys. Now that you've just retired, Beau, and you've got a little taste of what it's like to be in Kauai, which is where I got married, incidentally. It's a very special place for me as well. So I'm so happy that it's now in your heart, particularly Hanalei Bay, which is a magical place in the world.
Yes, we know I'm still hearing the ocean.
Oh,
right?
gosh, and let it be there forever, because there's something about the way that the waves come in and out, that it's always going to come in and it's always going to come out. Like tapping into that rhythm really allows you to hold the allowing, doesn't it? Because you know that it's not permanent, that it's ever changing, and that it's going to come in and it's going to go out and it's going to come back in again. You know, that it's not going to come out and the water's going to disappear, that you are the water if you allow yourself to be in that flow. So I love that you're still hearing that and you can still feel it, but I'm really excited about the exploration of this, the possibilities of this new place that you're both in together.
Well, it is a place of discovery for both of us, and I don't have the answer to the question that everybody asks. So you're retired now. So what's next? What are you gonna do? Well, right now I'm not going to do anything. The Buddhists have a term. I'm not familiar enough with that tradition to speak authoritatively, but they call it a bardo, a period of waiting, a liminal space after a stage and before the next thing. And so I'm just allowing the wrinkles to hang out. And I know that there are things that are arising and changing form, and I trust them. So we'll talk as that vision emerges, and we're in a different phase of our relationship, where it's really clear. Oh, it's not just Beau that's retiring; it is a shift in our way of being as a couple, and so we can talk about that sometime.
That might be a podcast.
Yeah, it might be.
Yeah,
and I know that I know like it always is with us. We could go on for another 2 hours easy, but the old radio guy in me with the eye on the clock says we probably should wrap this up. And if you don't mind, I'd like to read something that meant a lot to me. Do you know who Maria Popova is?
No.
Do you know? She writes this incredible weekly newsletter. It's called The Marginalian. And she weaves together literature, poetry, art, philosophy, spirituality, all together.
And even some academia.
Yeah, and sometimes astrophysics, and in this beautiful newsletter. And she has written a thing. It's called an almanac of birds, and it's like divination cards, each of which has a photograph or a drawing, which she has done, of a beautiful bird and one of her poems. And I pull one every day, And this actually came from yesterday, but it just thinking about our time together, so can I read that
Please.
This is from yesterday's card. It says, "Give up the terror of being left or wounded, for it is a species of selfishness that plunders attachment of sweetness and feeds on the carrion of the possible. Give yourself abundantly with an open heart, and believe in the part of you that cannot be destroyed by the agonies of hope, the part courageous enough to carry the weight of the most beautiful feelings, and humble enough to be surprised." So that's kind of I feel like the journey that we're on together, all three of us.
And as I think about you, Tess, and our relationship, both you and I, our relationship together, our relationship, the three of us, we believe in the part of you that cannot be destroyed by the agonies of hope.
Yes.
And we know that you believe in that for us as well.
Yeah.
But I think at its core, maybe that's what we all recognize in each other, is we believe in each other. We see the core of each other and we believe in it and we trust it. And that gives us this beautiful ability to have these never-ending conversations and to support each other through really vulnerable, difficult things that other people would turn away from, and also to support and celebrate each other, in such beautiful ways, because we believe in that part of ourselves.
Yes. Thank you for
reading that.
how you show up in the world and how you show up for me. I'm so grateful, and I couldn't be me without you. So thank you for making me better, seeing me.
Yes.
And the same for us. The same for us too. We love you so much, and I just hope that people watching or listening get just a glimpse, of how we see you.
Thank you. I love you.
Love you.
Oh, how fortunate am I? The value of chosen family, those intimate connections with friends where we choose to build trust and share vulnerability and allow ourselves to be seen. So who are those people outside of your family who hold your hopes and your dreams and your fear and shame and grief mindfully with care and respect and love? Who wants you to win? Who really listens to you, not to fix things, but to help you hold and process the things that might be hard or the things that might be amazing, and everything in between. Cultivate those relationships that are safe and compassionate and are allowing and forgiving. Beau and Elizabeth really helped me hold and process the grief and trauma of my divorce, and then the death of my ex-husband, and many other challenges and triumphs in my life. And I can hold all of those parts of myself because they see them with such honesty and love. So choose your relationships wisely. Those people are mirrors. They're reflections. And there is a co-creation aspect of identity. We don't become who we are in a vacuum. We're all helping and holding each other. And so we need to be discerning about the mirrors that we look into and trust about who we actually are. And the right people help you see who you are. They help you see in the blind spots, see the possibilities, and help you find your way. And that acknowledgement that they were talking about, that their experiences could be healing for me and my experiences could be healing for them. But we have to hold each other with care and responsibility in order to feel safe, to be seen and to be heard, and to see and share our perspective There's a carelessness that's pervasive in the world, and we need to be carefully choosing how we express ourselves about what we see. And we choose to have the capacity to hold others whilst we're holding everything within ourselves. And that I'm not enough and I'm too much story, this idea that we have to be different in order to be loved, you are never too much for the right people, but you'll always be too much for the wrong people. So that dance of intimacy is about receiving as much as giving. We're holding and sharing and leading and knowing and following all at the same time, depending on the circumstances. And the monster dance that we talked about, it was a real turning point for me in terms of the way that I hold my insatiable desire, my desire for life and love, my desire for more. I saw it as a really ugly, greedy thing, and they really helped me see that it's a beautiful thing and that they could hold the bigness, the fullness of me. And acknowledging the non-linear journey of life, that it's a mixture of what's appropriate for you and that you get to choose. Sometimes things appear as if they're really big, unusual pivots in our life trajectory. It's not a straight line, but the journey really does make sense when we connect the dots and really are interested in the through line. What drives me? What am I really interested in? For me, it's dwelling in possibility. I want to dwell in all possibilities, and I want to help others expand their possibilities and potential. That's why the podcast is, it has to be me, that moment where you go, I'm going to go after it no matter what. It's mine. I have to do it. I want to do it. I can do it. And then there's no turning back. You claim it, you own it, you run with it, and then you share it. And storytelling is another through line. Self-care and self-love and self-exploration, whether it's through food, through art, story, relationships, experiences. And contribution and impact is really big for me. How can I leave this world better than how I found it? How can I make that person better than they are on their own? And how can I be open to other people making me better than I would ever be on my own? And permission. That permission that I'm allowed to have that, I'm allowed to want that, I'm allowed to go after that. And that it can be a really good thing for me and others. Living in the yes and, applying the golden rule of improvisation in everything. That sense of play and possibility. Let's take it out of acting and out of the rehearsal room and all run with it. Embracing the idea that we can inhabit the world and any world that we find ourselves in and find our way. If we just keep asking questions and maintain that curiosity without judgment. Life is an exploration. It's a practice. We're always finding ourselves in the middle of the story, as Beau and Elizabeth were saying. So enjoying the process and the fact that things never get resolved, allowing the flow of life to go on. And the beauty of that mutual acknowledgement that whether you're exploring something alone or with others, it's not fully formed. And finding that really, really wonderful. Giving ourselves permission to find our way into things and be interested in looking at things without an attachment to any particular outcome. This is just the way the ocean is flowing today, as they were saying. And you don't have to know the way. The way knows the way. So we just show up and we make choices. We learn from them and we allow those lessons to inform the next choices. And trusting in the value of your offers. Like they were saying, that there's no recasting on the lead character in your story. When you do the work, you can trust what is coming through you. You can trust that it's there. And all you have to do is allow it to flow through, allow it to be there, and allow it to develop. People want to hear what you have to say. And as I've quoted many times, Beau and Elizabeth's friend Don gave it to them and they gave it to me and we're giving it to you. Sometimes the best teacher for a third grader is a fourth grader. And that Marlon Brando story, just be the guy and let other people be the version of the guy and collaborate. Give your offers and receive the offers of others and play, improvise, experiment, pull on threads, tease things out, learn, fall flat on your face, get back up, keep playing, keep showing up. And that imposter syndrome, we all have it. It's just fear. And that healthy balance between self-trust and self-doubt is necessary to make bold choices, but also have the humility of the knowing that we need help to get where we want to go, that we don't know everything. And there's no shame in that. That is why we have these significant relationships and we have mentors and teachers. We're all teachers. We're all followers, depending on the situation. And a big one for me that Beau and Elizabeth have really helped me with is befriending and celebrating desire. How he quoted Justin. I've had Justin in London on the podcast as well. The desire is endless. It will never be satisfied. It's always going to feel like an irritant in your psyche and in your body unless you can learn to just be in the flow and enjoy that which is flowing through you. So enjoying all of it, even if it comes wrapped in dog shit, because that's where many of my very, very big lessons have come from. And I'm grateful for it down the road, even if it's very uncomfortable. And Beau and Elizabeth have waded through a lot of discomfort with me and celebrated and danced through a lot of the big triumphs in my life as well. And they're always there to hold whatever I have today. And that's what great friends do. And gosh, do I love Maria Popova's offer. Oh, wasn't it beautiful? When Beau read that, believe in the part of you that cannot be destroyed by the agonies of hope. I am going to print that up and put it on my mirror, beside my bed, in my car, in my journal, everywhere. Oh, believe in the part of you that cannot be destroyed by the agonies of hope. Oh, please let me know what resonated with you from this episode with a review or a post in the Facebook group. And again, thank you so much for listening. I've got some really wonderful people coming up on the show. I can't wait for you to hear about them, but I'm really, really grateful for you. So again, thank you for listening.
I want to hear about your It Has to Be Me story. So head on over to ithastobeme.com/stories to share it in our free community. You can also join the conversations we're having about this episode and others. I'm Tess Masters. Join me next week and we'll dive inside another great story to help us go from dreaming to doing.